If you had just 1 minute left to live, would you be afraid? Or would you wonder what's waiting on the other side? I didn't have to imagine. I died truly. My heart stopped. My body went cold. But that was the moment I truly began to live. It was 2:17 a.m. I remember it clearly. I was lying in bed when a crushing pain wrapped around my chest like an invisible hand squeezing my heart from the inside. I couldn't cry out. I couldn't move. The room slowly dimmed, as if someone were turning down the brightness of reality itself. And then everything went black. I slipped out of my own body. No pain. No panic. Just a feeling of weightlessness, as if the full weight of life and fear had been lifted off me. I hovered above, watching my lifeless body lying still below. Doctors were fighting to revive me, working frantically through CPR. The heart monitor beeped, then stretched into a long, flat, soulless line. I saw them crying. I saw my wife screaming. But strangely, I didn't feel afraid. For the first time in my life, I felt complete and absolute peace. No more fear. No more time. No more right or wrong. I was. Then I was pulled into a tunnel of light. But not the harsh white light. You read about it in books or see it in movies. This light was alive. It breathed. It knew me. And in that moment, I heard a voice. Not from the outside, but rising from deep within my soul. You're not finished yet. But look. And remember. I was taken farther. Beyond this space. Beyond everything I had ever believed to be real. And the first thing I saw was my mother. The woman I had lost 25 years ago was standing there, smiling. She reached out her hand to welcome me. My name is Thomas Rayner. In 1998, I was just 42 years old, working as a structural engineer in Iowa. One November morning, snow blanketed the rooftops. I woke up with a strange, tightening pressure in my chest, a feeling I couldn't shake. Within 15 minutes, my heart stopped. I died. But I opened my eyes. Not in a hospital. Not in a morgue. I was standing in a place with no horizon. The air wasn't for breathing, it was for feeling. It was warm, wrapping around me like the embrace of a mother I once knew. I began to move not with my feet. All I had to do was think and I was there. The trees here glowed from within. There was no source of sound, yet music echoed inside me like a song I had known long before I was ever born. There was no sun, but light was everywhere, gentle, profound. And then I saw my grandmother. She had passed when I was only 8. But there she stood, healthy, radiant, young, as if time no longer held any power. She didn't speak, but I understood every thought she had. Hello, Thomas. This is home. But you're not meant to stay. I broke down. For the first time since I died, my heart ached. I didn't want to go back. I asked her, why, Grandma? Why do I have to return? She looked past me. Her eyes focused on something behind me. I turned around and I saw myself. I saw my wife, Andrea, holding my hand in the physical world. I saw my 9-year-old daughter sobbing by the side of my hospital bed. I didn't want to return. But then, I heard that voice again. A voice without sound, yet it pierced straight through my soul. You must go on. Not yet. But I will show you. The truth. And in that moment, everything changed. The space around me shattered like glass breaking apart. I was pulled into another dimension, a place with no form, no color, only feeling and pure awareness. There, I saw things no one had ever told me. Truths beyond doctrine, beyond scripture, beyond any model of physics I had ever known. A world where everything was thought, where I was shown that every small action I had ever taken had created a ripple effect, a domino chain that stretched endlessly through other people, other lives. I drifted into a realm of light. Not blinding, not cold. This light didn't shine on my skin. It illuminated my soul. And I heard it not with my ears, but from within. Remember who you are. And then, like a film reel, my entire life began to play before me, every detail, every moment I thought I had forgotten. I saw myself at 7 years old, hiding an injured puppy in the garage, afraid my parents would be upset. I saw myself at 14, mocking a classmate because he stuttered. I saw myself at 27, standing in silence as my supervisor unjustly scolded a coworker. But what brought me to tears wasn't guilt, it was the feelings of others. I felt the pain of that classmate from years ago. I felt the hurt in my wife every time I chose silence over honesty. I even felt the gratitude of a homeless man when I handed him a cup of coffee in 1991. I wasn't judged. I wasn't condemned. But I couldn't look away. Because for the first time, I saw everything I had ever done. I had created a vibration, and none of it ever disappeared. I heard that voice again, gentle as a breath. Every action is a seed. What have you been planting? I collapsed to my knees in the middle of that light. And I whispered, I'm sorry, but the light didn't turn away. It didn't leave. It embraced me not with arms, but with a forgiveness so deep that guilt no longer existed. Only love remained. I began to understand, we don't live to succeed. We don't live to win or lose. We live to love at the right time, to love with a true heart, to love even when it's not returned. I cried not from pain, but because, for the first time in my life, I understood. I didn't have to be perfect to be loved. And then I asked, is this heaven? And the voice answered, heaven is not a place. It is a state of the soul. You've touched it, even while you were still alive. I stood still, stunned by the truth. And then I remembered the time I rescued a kitten trapped in a storm drain. The night I stayed up caring for my wife when she was sick. The moment I sat beside my daughter while she cried over a failed exam, saying nothing, just holding her hand. All of those moments, small, quiet, were glowing in that realm of light. I asked, then is there a hell? The voice was silent for a moment. Then it replied, hell is when you live disconnected from love. When you forget that you once belonged to the light. I fell silent. This world is not here to punish us. It's here to help us remember who we are. And then, I was shown something no language could ever describe. A spiral of light opened before me, as if I were about to step into a higher realm of consciousness, deeper, wider, closer to the source. I thought I was about to go further, but the voice spoke again. You may choose, stay here or go back. I turned to look behind me. And once again, I saw the world I had left. My wife was sitting in silence, praying. My daughter had fallen asleep by the hospital window, clutching a pillow in her arms. I whispered, I'll go back. But this time, I will live differently. Because the hardest part is not seeing heaven, but learning how to live in a way that brings heaven back to earth. I thought I had seen the light, but I hadn't. After leaving that place overflowing with love, I was pulled into darkness. Deeper than anything I had ever known. No pain, no cold, no obvious fear. Just a vast emptiness, where the only sensation that remained was the absence of being. I floated. No up, no down. No direction. No time. And then I realized something strange. I was remembering everything. Everything. I saw fragments of memory drifting around me like pieces of broken glass. My childhood. The times I lost my temper. The careless words I thought had long been forgotten. All of it appeared, clear and undeniable. No one blamed me, but no one shielded me from it either. I saw my mother's face. The day I made her cry. I saw the woman I once loved, her eyes filled with disappointment as I walked away without a single goodbye. And I saw myself hiding fear behind anger, smiling to escape the emptiness inside. And then in that vast emptiness, I saw something more painful than death itself. I saw the true purpose I was meant to live for, and how I had missed it. I wasn't judged. There was no gavel from some divine courtroom. But I was faced with the truth. And then a voice rose not from anywhere around me, but from deep within myself. If given the choice, would you dare to live differently? I wanted to scream, yes. But I had no mouth. I wanted to cry, but I had no tears. All I had was longing. A longing to live again, not just to survive, but to live with meaning. And in the very moment I touched the deepest part of my regret, I saw a sliver of light. Just a small sliver, but enough to stir every part of me. Like the first breath of a newborn child. It didn't pull me. It didn't push me. But it called to me. An invitation. A choice. And I felt myself being asked, one last time. If you return, what will you bring back with you? I whispered in my mind, without hesitation, love. And truth. The light began to widen like a doorway opening before me. But just before I stepped through, I knew deep within, my work here wasn't done. You think coming back is the easy part? No. That is the real challenge. Because surviving is one thing. But living differently, that's something else entirely. I came back like a lightning bolt. No warning. No cinematic miracle. Just a sudden jolt awake, but that awakening split me in two. My body was freezing. My breath felt crushed. Machines were blaring. A nurse screamed for the doctor. I opened my eyes to the chaos, to the sharp sting of antiseptic in the air. But none of it mattered to me. Because I knew I had died. And I knew I had been chosen to return. But return for what? The first few days after I woke up felt like a storm. The doctors called it a miraculous recovery. My family called it God's grace. But I called it a second chance, a heavy one. You don't truly understand what it means to come back from death until you realize that the world you once lived in no longer fits your soul. I looked around the familiar room, and it felt foreign. I looked in the mirror, saw a familiar face, but the eyes staring back. They weren't mine anymore. Inside me was a strange stillness, not emptiness, but clarity. I saw with absolute clarity all the things I used to chase: money, admiration, recognition. None of it held meaning anymore. I saw clearly that the things I once thought were worth being angry about, worth hating, were fear in disguise. I saw clearly that the most important thing I had forgotten was love. Not romantic love, but the kind of love that embraces everything, the way light covers darkness without needing a reason. But the painful truth was, no one seemed to understand that. My family was happy I was alive again, but they didn't realize I was living differently. Friends came to visit, still asking the same old empty questions. They couldn't understand, because they had never died to come back to life. And slowly, I began to feel more alone than I ever did in the emptiness beyond. I tried to share what I had seen, the fields of light, the souls comforting one another, the voice of the divine calling out. But people just smiled politely, nodded, and turned to talk about gas prices. That's when I realized, waking up is one thing. Staying awake in this world is something else entirely. And then one day, while I was sitting alone in the park watching the soft golden light of the afternoon fall like a lullaby, I heard that whisper again, rising gently within me. What do you want to carry with you? I understood then. I didn't come back to tell the story of heaven. I came back to live it, by loving more, understanding more, letting go faster, forgiving more easily, by touching other souls with the same peace that once touched me. No need to convince anyone. No need to prove anything. Just to be the light I once saw. But true light, it is not just stillness. It is an invitation to step into the hardest part of all, to live rightly, in a world that's always trying to pull you off course. Since the day I died, I've lived, but never the same way again. I no longer strive to shine. Now, I simply hope not to go dim. Each morning when I wake, I no longer ask, what do I need to do today to succeed? Instead, I ask, what can I do today to lighten someone else's heart? I began to write. Not to become famous, but to record the things I was afraid I might forget. The things I had seen, had touched, that felt more real than the ground beneath my feet. I began to speak to strangers in coffee shops, in grocery store lines, or just on a park bench. And somehow, in the most unexpected ways, I came to realize this. Everyone is carrying a loss inside them. A man who lost his wife 3 years ago is still wearing his wedding ring. A 14-year-old girl who has never once heard the words, "You are precious." An elderly woman who comes to church every week just to sit and cry, never speaking a word to anyone. I saw them as if the light within me recognized the fading light within them. I didn't have a solution. All I had was one thing, to listen with a heart that had once died and come back to life. And you know what? Sometimes that's enough. Someone once said to me, after I had listened to their story, "No one's ever looked at me that way before. You weren't afraid of me. You didn't flinch. You made me believe I'm still human." I remember I simply took their hand and said, because I once thought I wasn't human anymore either. I started going to gatherings not to preach, but to tell stories. Stories of a soul that once saw itself from outside the body and came back, never wanting to live halfway again. I met with people on the edge of life, invited to speak as someone who had been there and returned. They would look at me, eyes wet with fear, and ask the same question. Is it true? That it's not scary? And I always smiled. No. What's scary is not living rightly before it's time to go. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a saint. I'm just an ordinary person. The only difference is, I've tasted the end and chose to live the rest of my life as if each day were a misdelivered gift from heaven. Of course, there are still days I feel lost. Days when the light in me flickers like a candle in the wind. But in those moments, I hear that same voice again. What do you want to carry with you? And I choose to love again, even if no one loves me back. I choose to believe again, even if people laugh at me. I choose to tell my story again, even if no one understands. Because I know light never argues. It simply shines. But does this life truly make room for someone who's changed so much? Do they no longer resemble who they once were? Because when you become light, you also become a mirror, and not everyone wants to see their reflection. They say, once you've passed through death, you'll fear nothing. I used to believe that, until I realized the scariest thing isn't death, but living in a world where no one understands that you've already died. After months of living as though I were poured with light, I began to realize the isolation. Not everyone wants to hear about heaven. Not everyone is ready to accept that death and resurrection are not just illusions. And even fewer are willing to face the truth that everything they're holding on to could be an illusion. The family began to distance itself. Old friends grew silent. The calls grew fewer and then disappeared. I wasn't angry with them. I understood. I was no longer the person they once knew. I used to be a successful man, someone who knew how to speak at the right time with the right tone, someone who knew how to live in a way that pleased the majority. Now I often fall silent. I often stare off into the distance. I often say things that no one seems to understand. And worse, I've started touching the pain of others without anyone asking me to. I remember an old friend calling just to say, "You sound weird. Like, you're not human anymore." It scares me. I could only laugh. But after that call, I cried. Not because I was misunderstood, but because, for the first time, I truly understood the loneliness of those who have been awakened. To come back to life is a privilege. But to come back to life, it is also a punishment. You can't go back to being the person you were. You can't pretend you don't know the light. You can't crawl back into the old cocoon once you've transformed into a butterfly. I once thought bringing the light back would be welcomed. But I forgot, light reveals the darkness. And not everyone is ready to face it. I began to torment myself. Am I wrong? Am I delusional? Am I just deceiving myself? Should I remain silent and live the rest of my life as a lucky survivor, but someone who is no longer needed? One night, I stayed awake, looking out the window where the moonlight was thin like a cold knife's edge. And then, amid that profound doubt, I saw a tiny light beneath the porch. It was a letter. No signature. Just a single line, written in shaky handwriting. I once thought about suicide, but after hearing your story, I know the light is still there. Thank you for not staying silent. I sank, unable to cry anymore. Not from pain, but because, for the first time, I felt seen. I used to think death was the end. Now I know death is just a doorway. But not to an end, but to something far scarier, living truthfully. Because, after you die, you can no longer pretend. You can't pretend everything is fine in a broken marriage. You can't pretend to love a job that makes you die a little each day. You can't pretend to believe in something just because society believes in it. You can't pretend to forgive if your heart still holds resentment. And most importantly, you can't pretend you're living if your soul has already died. When I returned from the other side, I didn't bring back gold or prophecy. I only brought back a mirror to look at myself. I saw the things I once feared were nothing but illusions. The things I once chased after were merely the applause of the crowd. The people I once hated, they were just mirrors reflecting the fear within me. And myself, I had never truly known who I was. Do you know what's strange? It was only when I died that I truly began to live. Not to live to please anyone. Not to live to meet societal standards. But to live as someone who knows every moment could be the last. That's when I started writing. I began to apologize to those I had hurt, even though they didn't need it. I began to hug the people I loved, not waiting until they were seriously ill. I began to be silent not to escape, but to listen. I began to live slowly, not to procrastinate, but to savor each breath. And most importantly, I began to let go. Let go of expectations. Let go of past wounds. Let go of the illusions about yourself. Let go of the need to prove anything. Because after death, there's nothing left to prove. There is only one thing left to protect, the light within you. If you're reading this, maybe you've never died like I have. But you might be living as though you already have. And I want to tell you one thing. Don't wait until your heart stops beating to realize what your heart truly longs for. Don't wait until your soul leaves your body to know that the body deserves to be loved. Don't wait until everything ends to start forgiving. Live as someone who has died and returned. Speak words of love as if you were about to leave. Look at your loved ones as if today were the last time. Do kind things as if you were recording the final moments of your life. Because maybe you're already truly living it. And the only thing left is the light you leave behind. We are not bodies that have souls. We are souls temporarily borrowing a body. If you're still here, listening until the very last moment, I know you're not indifferent. You're searching for something deeper, an explanation for the pain. A guarantee that the loved ones you've lost haven't truly disappeared. A glimmer of light to keep you from giving up. And if my story touches something deep within you, don't let it pass by like a fleeting motivational video. Choose one small thing you can do today to live differently. It might be calling your mother. It might be letting go of the grudge that's eating away at your soul. It might be forgiving yourself for the things you thought could never be fixed. Because I'm being honest, none of us knows how much time we have left. And if you want to continue the journey of healing where we talk about NDEs, life, death, forgiveness, hope, and true return, click follow on this channel. Comment below if you have a story you want to share. I read every one. Not as a YouTuber, but as someone who has died and come back to listen to you. And if you think this video could soothe someone's heart who is silently crying inside, please share it. Because who knows, you might just be the ray of light at the end of the tunnel. For someone.